Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 27th March 2017. The first article, Poor Vote Getters Blame the Tools. So here we are going to talk about the EVMs. So after UP and Punjab elections, BSP chief and AAP chief, Mr. Kejriwal and Ms. Mayawati have criticized the EVMs and they claim that these are been tampered. So in this context, let us see how important this claim is. Remember this. People shall have the confidence in the electoral democracy. If their faith is lost in the electoral democracy, stability of democracy comes into question. So a responsible behavior is expected from the politicians. They shall not politicize the democratic process, which can breach the trust of the citizens. So in this context, EVMs, these are standalone machines in India. So people take the Netherlands and Germany as example. So in Netherlands, the machines are run on an operating system and they are not standalone. And in the case of Germany, the machines are being done away with because they don't have a legal backing. So they do not hold in the context of India. So in India, the machines are standalone. Added to that, randomness and transparency, they were introduced over a period of time. When I say randomness, at the level of allocation of the EVMs to various constituencies and allocation of each button to a candidate while polling and also conduct of mock voting before the use of voting machines for regular voters, all these are to improve randomness and transparency. Because of this, there is no chance of tampering with the EVMs. And the Election Commission also is bringing in voter verifiable paper audit trail. It means that whenever you vote for, a paper print will be coming from the machine and this paper will be deposited in the ballot box. So because of this, if any doubt is there, then these ballot papers or else this particular papers also can be counted and it will give you an information on it. And then the river as being. So here in Uttarakhand, the High Court has given a judgment that Ganga Yamuna rivers shall be considered as living beings. It means that they have legal or judicial sanctity as like the legal persons, corporations, etc. So this legal status was given in line with New Zealand's Whanganui River. Whanganui River. So in this context, if there is a difference between New Zealand and India. In New Zealand, the action is supported by a comprehensive parliamentary law. In India, there is no such a law. So obviously, the courts do not have the sovereignty and to make a judgment like this. And the center is not playing the appropriate role with regard to interstate river water disputes. And interstate river water disputes, they limit the interference of the courts in these matters. Above all, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, they don't have a proper river management framework in place. So in this context, considering the river as a living beings and improving their health needs a kind of commitment from the government. Most of the times, the river pollution is coming from the governmental agencies itself. Let's take municipalities. They leave the sewage into the river stream. So unless government takes a serious action or serious note of the river health, improvement cannot be expected out of this judgment alone. And then the next article, it is about a timely step. So this article is about improving the health of the banking sector in India. So total NPAs to the advances made by the banks, it reaches to 11% now. So it means 11.8% to be precise. It means that the banks, especially the public sector banks, are in a very poor shape. So banks are the major instruments for financial intermediation. They have to pool up the resources and they have to convert them into investments. It means they are critical for economic growth. And also in public sector banks, the major investor is the government of India. So the poor health of the banks is also diminishing the returns to the investor, that is the government of India. And government from time to time has to infuse the capital, which is a burden on the taxpayers' money. So in this case, when Raghuram Rajan was the RBI governor, he has taken asset quality reviews. So because of this asset quality review, So the present situation was clearly visible, present health is clearly visible. So government has started capital infusion under Indradhanusha. So now Basel III norms also recommend for sound capital position of the banks. The government now want to have accountability from the banks for the capital it is infusing, for the share value it has. So in this context, it is asking for a turnaround plans. So next 3 years, they have to implement these turnaround plans and show a good health of the banks to the government. In this context, for the first time, in this, an MOU is being signed between the government and banks for this purpose. In this MOU, employees unions are also being included. Why? The employees union, they play a critical role in the bank's health. And then employees union, they also have a self-interest in the health of the bank. So that's why these employees unions are also brought in. Next one is diffusing the air rage. This is about the Shiv Sena MP, Mr. Gaikwad, and his unruly behavior towards the Air India staff. So for unruly passengers, we are bringing in no fly or else. So the people who are not allowed to fly in the airlines, they are bringing in this particular list and they are demanding for the same as like in the other countries. Now coming to revisiting India's nuclear doctrine. So India's nuclear doctrine, it has no first use policy, and then it is going to use the nuclear weapons as a deterrence. It means that if anyone attacks India, either by nuclear weapons or chemical or biological weapons, which are called weapons of mass destruction, and causes a damage, a significant damage to India, then India will respond to the same. So here understand, the words which are used are India reserves the right to nuclear retaliation in the event of a major attack against India, its forces anywhere by biological or chemical weapons. So India is seeing the nuclear weapons as a deterrent against any major attack, either by nuclear weapons or by chemical weapons or by biological weapons, anywhere, either in India or on the foreign soil. And in this context, the nuclear weapons use, it is highly restricted. And there are systems in place to control the nuclear material movement. But if you see Syria using the chemical weapons, and then North Korea killing Kim Jong-un's brother with Agent VX, all this shows that the countries are still actively using the chemical weapons. So in this context, what is the meaning of the major damage? It is not defined by our nuclear doctrine. So more clarity can be provided on this particular issue. And coming to this, tackling Pyongyang. So US was expecting a greater role for China for tackling with North Korea. Everyone knows that only the talks are the way forward. And unable to rein in North Korea is the major diplomatic failure for the United States of America. So as North Korea is testing the nuclear weapons and also the missiles, so South Korea's previous chief, Ms. Park, she has allowed for the deployment of third missiles, the high altitude area defense missiles. They work on a very strong radar system. It is going to change the power balance in East Asia. So China believes that this will geoparadise its nuclear deterrence, because China also has the no first use policy. But these third missiles, they can spy over the nuclear capabilities of China. So that's why China has brought in diplomatic strictures against South Korea on these matters. So deployment of third, it's going to worsen the existing situation in Korean Peninsula. That's what is the message. And added to that, China has proposed that the South Korea and US has to stop their military exercises so that it can bring in an engagement with North Korea, bring the North Korea across the table, which was not acceptable to United States of America. So US says the deployment of third is to curtail the expansionist tendencies of North Korea, but it also have some unsaid goals to curtail or contain the China. And coming to on the benefits of equality. Now, inequality is not good for anyone. Even it is not good for rich. Because inequality builds fear, inequalities promote or curtail the freedoms or restricts the movements across the countries. So inequalities is not in good of poor and also in rich. So we have abundant studies on inequality, but what are the advantages of equality? We do not have the proper studies. So in this case, Danny Dorling's No Nonsense Guide to Equality book, it has clear studies on why equality is a virtue in itself, why we need to strive for equality. So that book has been recommended by Sampath. I'm going to buy that book and study that because I'm a big ardent fan of Mr. G. Sampath. And then let's get in. How many Indians have access to internet? As per the TRI study, around 28% of the people they use internet in the country. So it is not a right measure because in urban areas, in household or in a house, all the members may have the internet connectivity. 4 to 5 members may have the internet connectivity. But in the rural areas, none of the family members would have had the internet connectivity. So the digital divide is leading to developmental divide. So the digital divide includes rural-urban divide in India, a regional divide in India, and then it also has divides across the social groups. So if we have to fight this digital divide, first we have to build the rural-urban divide, and then we have to raise the affordability of the people by decreasing the cost of data. So in this context, the government of India is building BharatNet, so that can be a solution forward. Power losses, technology to the rescue. So what is this article is about? So India is having huge transmission losses. They are even to the tune of 60% in some of the cases. So in this context, what we can say is technology is coming to the rescue. So the automatic reading chips will be introduced in the meters for central reporting of the data so that the theft can be avoided. And Google is bringing in artificial intelligence to help the day-to-day life is the next article. So now in the healthcare we have the pathologists who will read the slides and diagnose the disease. Now artificial intelligence is going to read the slides now. It has better accuracy than the pathologists. So Google wants to apply the artificial intelligence for the day-to-day issues. And infrastructure clouds connectivity. It is small airports have to be brought under the airline connectivity, but however there are no effective infrastructure facilities to handle the passenger aircrafts over there. That's what is this article talks about. Now coming to the news page, India is the strongest partner of Dhaka. So Dhaka is celebrating its Independence Day, and Operation Searchlight, it was launched on March 25th by the Pakistani government then to crack down the Bengali nationalists. So finally it has led to a kind of a genocide, and Bangladesh is recommending for declaring March 25th as a genocide day by the United Nations. So in this context, India is a friend of Dhaka, that is what his Prime Minister has declared. And India-US civil nuclear deal to miss deadline. So Westinghouse, it is been taken over by Toshiba of Japan. Similarly, General Electric Company is taken by Hitachi of Japan. Now, Westinghouse has filed for bankruptcy. This Westinghouse is expected to bring in civil nuclear reactors in Andhra Pradesh, Kovada in Andhra Pradesh. So, as it is filing the bankruptcy, so it is expected to be delayed. And then, I'm not taking it from RSS perspective. India's development path goes through Dharma. I liked one important word over here. So, Dharma. So this is the path. Dharma does not mean religion over here. So in India, the development with justice shall be the concern. Development, it is not Benthamite utilitarianism, that is maximum benefit to the maximum. Our Dharma talks about Pareto optimality, that is welfare for all, development for all. This is what is I'm interested in. The Gandhiji also talks about the same thing, development with justice, development for all. It is not maximum benefit for maximum is the goal of the development. And then let's go to the news page. India eyes Dhruv foreign market. What is Dhruv? It is a light combat helicopter. So Dhruv, it was supplied to Ecuador, but it was not very much successful due to pilot errors and also mechanical failures. So, the servicing and also training are critical for marketing Dhruv. So, India wants to market the Dhruv in the neighborhood market, that is Sri Lanka, Maldives, it wants to sell that. The Dhruv is manufactured by HAL. So, it is coming up with MRO facilities, the maintenance overhaul facilities, maintenance repair and overhaul facilities it is going to establish, and it is going to take up the servicing and training. And then, so Rawat to discuss Nepal Army's upgrade. You know that Nepal Army officers are being trained by India at Dehradun. So we are talking about upgrade onto that. And Bangladeshi pilgrims flood South Tripura for festival. So here understand. So there is a connectivity across South Asia, or there is a religious connection across the people, community connections across the people in South Asia. So in this context, Bangladeshi pilgrims, they have come for a festival that is called Baruni Festival. So to take a holy dip in Feni River. So understand Feni River, Tripura, Baruni Festival. These are two things you need to remember for prelims. And then coming to the world page, Iran imposes sanctions on 15 US firms. So US has imposed the sanctions against Iran after its ballistic missile. Iran has retaliated. UK calls for access to messaging services. I have discussed in my classes that end-to-end encryption by messaging services is bringing in a halt or bringing in security concerns. So in this context, security agencies are asking for an access as the more and more terrorists are using this particular end-to-end encryption for communication. And then I have given you the notes. Try to go through the notes. So we have made the notes in article. And remember this, take home these points and remember these words which are been given to you. If you are not getting the time to read the entire thing, at least remember these words and repeatedly read these statements so that you can give good conclusions to your answers. And you don't get a chance to write all this which is given in your notes over here. The notes is meant for you to understand. The take home points for you to reproduce in your exam hall. Thank you very much. Visit laex.in/civils-prep for this notes. laex.in/civils-prep. Today, I'm going to make this a small video on questions which are given in LAEX Weekly magazine. So about how answer correction has to be, and also how the model answer or how the answer has to be written. So in today evening, most probably I'll make a video on that and we will upload it. Thank you very much and all the best.